Okay, we're going to start in about 40 seconds, if that's, Kelly gives me the...
Are you working or just farming or what? But you're still cattle farming?
Yeah.
I'm good. Good evening. Welcome to the candidate forum tonight. The forum is sponsored by the TotoketTV and Totoket Times. It's going to be very simple. Each of the candidates, they're sitting in alphabetical order, will give a 3-minute introduction, and then we will make, we'll have questions from the floor. Please be gracious with your questions. I know you want to ask pertinent questions, but try to keep the personal attacks to a minimum, and hopefully the questions will find out something that we need to know for the election. I want to start by, if we can all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Judy Esposito, who was the registrar of voters in our town for 36 years and passed away this past week. Thank you. Our first candidate this evening is Republican Rose Angeloni.
Good evening. Thank you to the Totoket Times and TotoketTV for sponsoring this event. My name is Rose Angeloni, and I am a 3-term incumbent seeking a seat on the Town Council. I have been a resident of North Branford for over 30 years with my husband Frank and our 3 children, all who have graduated from North Branford High School. I am currently a secretary at Totoket Valley Elementary School, a position I have held for the past 9 years. This experience has inspired me to give back to the town, and I am committed to the welfare of all in North Branford. Prior to this, I worked for over 30 years in the private sector in business administration. I have extensive experience in development of financial statements, human resources, including employee benefits, purchasing, and customer service. This experience has given me a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities that small business owners encounter on a daily basis. In addition to my tenure on the council, I have served on a number of boards and commissions in North Branford, including Planning and Zoning, Permanent Project Building Committee, the Southern Connecticut Council of Government Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Board of Education. I have been very active in the community, volunteering at the Potato and Corn Festival, Relay for Life, president of the North Branford Booster Club, where we have raised over $50,000 to give back to the students of North Branford in athletic equipment and annual donations to the Scholarship Association and Project Graduation, in addition to countless hours volunteering in the schools when my children attended and volunteering in my church. In my opinion, one of the most important jobs as a town council member is establishing the annual budget. This has become a daunting task over the past several years, given the difficult economic times of all levels of government. I am currently serving on the Long Range Goal Committee established by the council in April of this year. A preliminary plan was presented to the council last month, and we must continue our work to establish a fiscally responsible 5 to 10-year capital program regarding all town facilities, including the schools and recreational fields. I have served on several committees during my tenure on the council, including the Finance Committee, Permanent Project Building Committee, Stanley T. Williams Conversion, the Council Board of Ed Communication Committee, and currently serve as liaison to the Park and Rec Commission. It would be an honor and privilege to serve on the council again, to continue working hard for the residents of North Branford. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Rose. Our next candidate is Democrat Dan Arman.
Hello, family and friends. I would first like to thank Frank Mentone, Totoket Times, John Landolfi, and Dave Palumbo for putting on this forum for us, for the community. As I said, my name is Dan Arman. I've been a resident of North Branford for 16 years. In 2008, I was appointed member of the Hazardous Waste and Recycling Committee, when we organized a very successful Earth Day cleanups and initiated electronic recycling held at Public Works. While on this committee, I also became and still am involved with the Potato and Corn Festival, eventually becoming supervisor, which I currently am. After the recycling committee, I moved on to economic development. During my time on this committee, our group developed a plan in conjunction with the Yale School of Urban Design and the community in the form of what is called the charrette process for what we should do with the now vacant old wall field, also known as 1599 Foxen Boulevard, and the potential for a new town center. This was very rewarding, engaging the public in decisions like this, which will directly affect the town and is definitely a love of mine. On the subject of my loves, I'm a very proud parent of a 12-year-old daughter who is currently at MBIS. When our daughter was age 5, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. This was a life-changing development, but with the support of JDRF and my family and friends, I have been able to help both my daughter with these challenges and other families, as I am currently a mentor for JDRF and was just recently elected to the Connecticut Board of Directors. I was honored to be appointed to Town Council at the beginning of the year and at the beginning of the budget process. While the budget process is definitely stressful, especially for a newbie like me, it too was very rewarding and helped me develop some observations. 1, the town revenue stream, i.e. tax base, is stagnant. While respecting the town's character and identity, we need to attract business to town. We have a great location, great people, and we need to promote this. 2, at this point, it is the homeowner that bears the brunt of this burden, and that needs to be moderated. While serving on this council, I've been privileged to serve on the long-term planning goals subcommittee with Marie Diamond and Rose Angeloni. This committee engaged all department heads so we could evaluate what their and in turn our needs are. I learned that our town infrastructure is in a state of neglect. When the average age of the public works trucks is 23 years, or the average miles on a police car is over 100,000 miles, it is easy to spend more on repair than it is to have a more serviceable fleet.
20 seconds.
When the police station is flooding and the electronics are in inferior state, or the school showers haven't been updated since the 70s, it is time to start talking about long-term solutions to these issues that don't remedy themselves. On town council, it has been, and if elected, will continue to be my goal to bring these discussions to the table with respect to both the citizens and my fellow councilors. Serving on these committees and being involved with the associated town departments and people, I have developed a profound respect and admiration for all involved parties, both employees and volunteers. I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next up is Republican Anthony Candelora.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to thank also the TotoketTV, Totoket Times, and Frank Mentone for moderating this evening. Over the last 6 years, I have served on the town council and had the privilege of representing the town of North Branford as mayor. I've also served on several committees such as finance. I was chairman for 2 years, liaison to the Board of Ed, fire department, and several others. Since being on the council, I've sat through teacher negotiations, administrators negotiations for the Board of Ed. My goals have always been to maintain a balanced budget, keep our infrastructure, town services at the highest levels. The challenge over these years have been state mandates, budgets from the state. Hartford has passed a budget over the last year that's going to be very challenging for most towns, if not all. We will need to keep our debt service to a minimum over the next several years and keep our spending down. When I first got on the council, we had a debt service of roughly $6 million. Looking back over previous years, our town successfully ran with debt service at $2 to $3 million. And with a stagnant grand list and a business base that is shrinking, we don't have many choices left. We can't keep taxing the homeowners. We need to attract businesses and economic development. And I've sat up here for 6 years with many great people that have worked very hard. And I look forward to hopefully serving the next 2 years with a lot of the same people. Thank you.
Okay, our next candidate is Democrat Marie Diamond.
Thank you, and I thank Frank Mentone, the Totoket Times, and the Totoket TV for this evening. I'm honored to be an incumbent candidate for the North Branford Town Council. I've resided in Northford for 11 years at Montgomery Village, where I currently serve as president of the Condominium Association. Even though I have only lived in town a shorter period of time than most people sitting up here, I think I have the same passion and desire to be a candidate to serve the needs of this community. First of all, I truly believe in community service. I had only moved into North Branford for a few months when I became the first president of the North Branford Education Foundation. I've also filled unexpired terms on the North Branford Board of Education and the North Branford Parks and Recreation Commission, and 2 years ago was elected to the Town Council. On the Town Council, I serve as the liaison to the Police Commission, a liaison to the Budget Committee of the Board of Education, and I currently chair the Planning Committee that I feel so strongly about. North Branford's Code of Ethics states something I think is very interesting. Good government depends upon public servants who make decisions which are in the best interest of the town as a whole. I'm committed, therefore, to thoughtful long-term planning. That's why I felt so strongly about having a planning committee for this town. And I'm committed to problem solving to tackle those issues and challenges that North Branford faces now, but also in the future, and to make decisions that are in the best interest of the town, as stated in that Board of Ethics code. All candidates in any election talk about the need for transparency in government. I believe in transparency, but I also believe in dialogue. I think this requires collaboration among all town council members and all town council members with other boards and commissions to ensure that our employees have the tools they need to do the job for the residents of this town, to bring more business into this town, and hopefully lower the taxes and the tax burden on our individual homeowners. When I read the newspaper, I see more and more articles about how neighboring town organizations work together for the benefit of the town. I noticed the other day in the newspaper that Ansonia got a $50,000 grant to attract more business to town. I think we can do that. I think if we work together, we can find some creative, smart solutions that will build on North Branford's assets. This is a wonderful town, and as I stated earlier, I'd be honored to be elected to the town council, and I will work diligently with the other town council members to serve the needs of all the town residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Next candidate is Republican Michael Duty.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Totoket Times, Totoket TV, and Frank Mentone for presenting us with this Meet the Candidate Night. I'm Michael Duty. I'm a candidate for the North Branford Town Council. I want to thank you for coming tonight to give me an opportunity to share my values and tell you a little bit about myself. I'm retired from the North Branford Police Department after 34 years. I currently work for JP Express in Northford. I've always been involved in town as a former member of the Inland Wetlands Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, the Northford Volunteer Fire Department. I've sat on the Governor's Commission on Racial Disparity in the Criminal Justice System. I've been involved in numerous boards and commissions in other areas of my life. I'm pretty well rounded with lots of experience. I'm running for one of the 9 seats on the town council. Prior to this last council, I served 2 terms as mayor, 2 terms as deputy mayor. I run because I love the town and want to make sure we are making the right choices to enhance our quality of life, promote small business, and take care of our future. Also, the citizens of our town deserve a good school system while keeping our taxes reasonable. From my police career and other groups and organizations, I've learned the skills in some of the following areas: policy development, problem solving, budgets, teamwork, and good old common sense. My contributions will be from an ordinary taxpayer who is representing your interest. I will listen and be accountable to you. I have no hidden agendas and no other reason to run other than I care about North Branford. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Our next candidate is Democrat Joe Fornin.
Thank you, thank you, Frank. Thank you to our sponsors and to you, all of our citizens, for having the good sense and the time and the interest to come out and hear what we have to say this evening. And for those of you who may be watching this on a rebroadcast on Totoket television, thank you for taking the time to learn about your town government. As Frank mentioned, my name is Joe Fornin. I've lived in North Branford since 1977. My wife Claudia, who's here with me this evening, is a lifelong resident of the town. She's recently retired as a teacher in our kindergarten school classroom after 38 years of teaching. We have raised 2 children, both of whom are adults and unfortunately no longer live in North Branford, and actually one lives on the West Coast. Throughout the time that I've resided in North Branford, I have pretty much involved myself in town affairs to one extent or another. I served on the Inland Wetlands Commission. I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for, I believe, about 20 years. And I think about the last 5 or 6 years of that tenure on Planning and Zoning, I served as the chairman of that commission. This council will be my 8th year serving as a member of the Town Council of North Branford. And if elected, it will be my pleasure to serve for a 5th term. Like my fellow candidates, I have a tremendous concern about the budget in this town. It is a very difficult, very onerous process. What we're faced with are growing mandates from the state of Connecticut, lessening reimbursement for expenses, lessening grants, and greater demand for services from our citizens. That's a hard task to take charge of. The substantial burden of taxes in this town certainly is reflected in the tax bill each of you sees twice a year, and that burden is not something we take lightly sitting here as members of the town council. We recognize the strain it puts on family budgets. We strive to minimize that impact, and we hope that you understand that what we are doing is trying to operate the town as best we can within the constraints that are dictated by the state of Connecticut and with as minimal amount of your tax dollars as we have to tap into. As I mentioned, this will be my 5th term on the council if I'm so fortunate as to have your support. I look forward to Election Day, and I encourage all of you to come out and please express your opinion as voters. Vote for the council that you think is best suited to serve your needs as citizens of North Branford. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Next is Shauna Papa-Holzer, Republican.
Welcome, and thank you for sharing your time with us this evening. I'm Shauna Papa-Holzer. I'm probably a new face to all of you because I moved back to town last year. I was born and raised in North Branford, and I left to go to Syracuse University, where I earned a degree in social work, and later went to NYU, where I learned a master's. I lived the last 20 years in New York City, and I've always kept a home in North Branford. 10 years ago, I bought a house in Northford, and I recently moved back with my 2 children, and they attend school in North Branford. My son is at NBIS. My daughter is actually at Our Lady of Mercy in Madison because she wanted to go to a girls' school with religion. Unfortunately, there's no all-girls schools for elementary school, so we did the best we can. I'm currently the Senior Director of Programs at Sound Community Services, where I deal with individuals with behavioral health and substance abuse issues. I manage a $9 million budget. My charge is to keep the budget balanced, to control the quality of the programming, and to write grants to get awarded new programming. I think my skills are transferable to government and public office. I've never done this before, so it's a fresh approach. It's something new. I'm very used to dealing with different opinions, bringing people together for consensus, and looking for the best interests of the people, the community, or the agency. I'm happy to answer questions about myself that I may not have brought up right now, and any issues that are relevant in the town that you think I may need to tackle if I'm elected. Thank you again.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Democrat Francis Leskovich.
Hi, thank you for allowing us to bring this venue to the public. My name is Frances Leskovich. I've lived in this town for 40 years and seen it grow substantially. I have served on the P&Z Planning and Zoning Commission for 18 years. I've been a registered nurse for 60 years, working in the ICU, and been a director of nurses for a long-term nursing facility. I've done research with the anesthesia department at Yale to establish a new drug, and the paper was written up in the medical journal. We have members on the council that have done a very good job, but it's time to inject new blood and with fresh ideas. We need, as mentioned before, long-term planning for economic prosperity, the expansion of business in ways compatible with our rural character and agricultural base to enhance smart growth. We need to stimulate new business and keep the business already established to keep our taxes from rising more than they are. This is a big job, and it requires all members of the board to give their ideas and respect each other's opinions and do what's right for the town. We should establish or reestablish a Chamber of Commerce, which has been let go by the wayside, by either having our own or joining Guilford and Branford, who have an excellent format. They have stated to the council in the past they'd be happy to have us and assure us that the town would keep their identity. We need to look at our schools, which are already in need of renovation. The police department, which are our first responders, our senior citizens, and all the departments which have problems, big and small. The only way to do this is to plan long-term and not to put a Band-Aid on the problem as they arise. We need to keep our residents informed and be transparent on how decisions are made. We have people in this town which have ideas and expertise on many issues. We need to seek them out and encourage them to be heard. It is the job of the council to represent the whole community. We cannot assume to represent them without listening to them. A council member
30
should be
seconds.
selfless, objective, accountable, open and transparent, honesty, and have leadership abilities. I hope to be elected to the council, and the public can be assured that I will be no further away than a phone call, an email, or letter, that I will research to be well informed on any decisions that are made which are the best interest of the town of Branford, along with the input from all council members. We are fortunate to live in a democracy.
10
We
seconds.
should use that democracy to get out and vote. Let your anxieties be heard and encourage your neighbors to be the same.
Thank you. Next is Democrat Chris Manna.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you to TotoketTV and to the Totoket Times. I was not born and raised here. I'm originally from Long Island. I've been in Connecticut 33 years and been in North Branford 22. I raised my family here. This is a wonderful town, and we can even make it better. I've had only 2 jobs in my life. I started out as a high school educator, which I continue to this day. I still teach at night, sometimes at a vocational school. I'm married to an educator. Served on the Board of Education, which we, North Branford, which we hired a superintendent during my tenure. We helped put up the middle school, which that was something. When there was built, it was America's greatest water park. It's things have gotten better since, but that was quite a challenge. I helped write and was on the committee for policy writing. I've been working as a self-employed business person, as a chiropractor. My practice is in East Haven. I've been doing this for 33 years. So I understand a little bit about education, a little bit about trying to run your own practice. and certainly know a little bit about paying expenses and taxes. I guess there's no one here who hasn't had an issue with taxes. We know we have to bring businesses into this town, and we know we can't do it by just sticking with our parties. We have to work together. It's the only way we can solve this problem. I'm also a member of the Branford Rotary Club, where we do a fair amount of community service. And I look forward to the possibility of being on this town council and working with everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you. I just realized there's 12 candidates and 10 microphones, so if you don't have a microphone in front of you when it's your turn, just move one of them over so that they can get you on the TV. I mean, obviously we can hear you here, but I'm not sure how it'll work. So, next candidate is Democrat George Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mentone, for hosting this. My name is George Miller. I'm a resident here for 41 years. My work history began as an officer with the New Haven Police Department and concluded at the state's Police Training Academy, where I created, taught, or managed professional training programs for every rank of police officer. I am here to ask for your vote for the entire Democratic slate of candidates. I've never run for public office, but I began to pay closer attention last year, and as Yogi Berra pointed out, you can observe a lot by just watching. There's much to think about. Our town has had a Republican majority directing it for a while, and if you're not pleased with how things are going in town, you should consider voting to change the composition of this town council. I'm asking for your vote for the entire Democratic slate of candidates. Here are some issues to talk about in this election. Taxes. No candidate can promise to lower your taxes. But you can't look to the Republican majority to lower taxes. They've already proved they're not capable of doing so. You can observe a lot by just watching. In the current budget, the mill rate increased by 1.73. That constitutes a 3.05% increase. The current national inflation rate is 0.2%. So our increase is 15.25 times the rate of the national inflation. Our current mill rate is 31.65. At a town council meeting just last month, a Republican councilor speculated that the rate in 2 years could be 40 mills. Town properties have been ignored until they fall into disrepair along our roadways, and they can't be saved. It's not responsible leadership. The plans to repurpose Wall Field grow more controversial by the day, and that constitutes the heart of at least this end of town. We have part-time committees also trying to do the work of the defunct Chamber of Commerce. Artificial turf suggested for town fields is not an uncomplicated issue. Health professionals are actively campaigning against installing synthetic turf at Yale Bowl just last month. 10 years after installation of this product in many locations, some cancers have emerged, especially in soccer and football installations. Finally, I think the children of our town should have ample and very nice recreational facilities, but they should have abundant and spectacular educational opportunities. A great school system is an economic driver for every community. Great schools promote business growth and drive up housing prices. I urge everyone here and everyone listening to vote for the entire Democratic slate of candidates. I'm George Miller.
Thank you. Republican Al Rose.
I'm Al Rose, and I'm not going to thank anybody except the candidates up here that are running. Because when you decide to run for office in town, not only does it cost you money to help your party run the campaign, every decision that you make up here, you lose friends. And so I take my hat off to everybody, bipartisan, that's running for office. Having said that, I've been at this a long time. I've served on all sorts of committees in town, and I probably err on the side of being conservative. And I agree with Mr. Candelora that, and I've had conversations with him about our debt service in town. Back when it was decided that there were going to be a couple of libraries built, our debt service did go from about $2.5 million, and it ended up at a high of $6 million. And at the time, the finance director in town said, you know, it's been at the $2.5, $3 million for years. Maybe $6 million is the right number for the town. Maybe that was the right number when they were thinking about doing it. But then the economic crisis hit, and so sitting up here, we're looking at a stagnant grand list, and have had years of this debt service that is just ridiculous. We're one of the highest debt per capita towns in the state. And so, you know, maybe we do need new schools and new police departments and a new town hall, but we can't afford it. So we have to look at how we can do it. And unfortunately, we've been sitting up here putting Band-Aids on this because we don't have the money. In this last budget, we had to borrow money to fix some roads that were so bad that the town was just going to be getting sued for, you know, either accidents or, you know, who knows what. But it's we have no money, and I've been an advocate of trying to figure out, okay, what is the right number, and I was trying to, and I hit a lot of opposition up here to put some kind of a bonding cap in place where the townspeople would come out and get to vote on raising their own taxes to do a certain project. And I hit a stone wall. But I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's not the bonding, it's the debt service.
30 seconds.
So if I'm elected again, I'm going to be looking at the debt service and dealing with, you know, whatever experts there are on it to see what can this town afford. And that's really where the town council has to go, because if we can get an extra $3 million off the debt service, which it does pay down, we can use that for our fixed costs of staff raises, police cars, fire trucks, instead of having to borrow the money, because we cannot afford $6 million a year in debt service, and that's been proved. So that's it.
Thank you. Lastly is Joanne Wentworth, Republican.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for coming out tonight to hear the candidates and their viewpoints. I have lived in North Branford for 50 years. I'm seeking your support once again for the North Branford Town Council, where I have served as councilor, deputy mayor, and mayor. My continuing concern for the townspeople and businesses in North Branford compels me to lend a strong voice to their shared concerns about our town. It is important that the town continues its search for economic development, upgrading our infrastructure, as well as our town buildings. I have served the town in a variety of capacities because of a deep-rooted belief in our town's exceptionalism. I will continue to serve the town as long as I feel I can make a difference with your continued support. And I ask you to support the Republican team on November 3rd. And thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Joanne. Now we'll take questions from the floor. In order to do this orderly, please raise your hand. Once you're acknowledged, please come to the microphone and state your name and then ask your question. And if somebody's behind this pole and they're raising their hand, I can't see them. So. Questions from the floor?
Not everybody at once.
Sir?
Hi, my name is Joe Foster, and I have been a resident of North Branford for 17 years. I moved here from Enfield to be closer to work. Actually, I was working out of Springfield, and I'm working out of New Haven now. And taxes. The mill rate when I moved here was 0.19. Mill rate now is 0.31. And then in the middle of all that, we had the reassessment. So my taxes were $3,200 when I moved here, and they're going to be over $8,000 next year. My house is 1,700 square feet with a barn, and it has to stop. Every year, I see the school budget is increased by 3 to 4%. They're part of this community, and I don't know why we have to say yes to everything the teachers union asks for. And I know attracting business here is going to be tough, and it's not because of the policies in North Branford. It's going to be because of the policies of the administration in Hartford and the assembly in Hartford that is driving businesses out of this state. They raised the taxes $1.5 billion last year, and they ran out of money this month. And they're going to be borrowing more. And people in this room don't realize it, but Connecticut has the highest per capita debt burden in the nation.
I'm sorry, is there going to be a question eventually?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I want to know what's going to be done to hold the line on taxes, to cut spending, to hold down raises. And I know people need raises, people have growing families, and people have, in the real cost of living is going up 3 and 4%, not as advertised in the city, because they don't count food, they don't count energy, and they don't count anything that's really important to survive in this country. And I want to know what will be done to hold the line on taxes.
Okay, what we'll do with this is that if it's not an individual for an individual person, amongst yourselves, let's have one Democrat response and one Republican respond, and you guys can fight over which one of you wants to go.
Thank you.
Why don't you at least designate a party, Frank? And,
Okay, Republicans first for this one, Democrats will go first for the next one.
I'll take it. As far as this, one of your main things was school budget. The school budget is approximately 65 to 70% of the town's budget. Unfortunately, there are state statutes that say that we cannot give them less than what they had the year before. So even though there's declining enrollment, our hands are tied as far as the dollar amount that they get. When I started on the council, school enrollment was probably somewhere in the 2,300 range. We are now below 1,900. But the school budget continues to go up as costs continue to go up. And with the state statute, we cannot lower based on the previous year's budget. So things need to happen in Hartford. Unfortunately, the town council doesn't have any control over the Board of Education. We can only give bottom line number. And even though they asked for 3 or 4%, they have not gotten 3 or 4%. The last year, this current budget year that we're in, was the highest percentage increase that they've had in 7 years, and that was approximately 2.5%. But $450,000 of that went to the self-insurance fund. So what the school actually got was not 2.5% on that.
Okay, Democrats?
What you raise is a problem we wrestle with virtually every meeting we have, and certainly in budget season, full time. The experience you've had is not unlike anybody else sitting in this room. We've all moved into town when our taxes were substantially lower than they are now. And both as a function of the mill rate being reset every year and reassessment being mandated by the state legislature to occur periodically. And by the way, it's going to occur this year. Your home is going to be re-evaluated, and based on that evaluation, a new assessment set on your home this coming year. So that's a process that's dictated by state law. That's something we cannot avoid. What I will say to you is that while your criticisms are fair and while your concerns are very real, and we share them with you, the biggest problem we have is the educational system in the state of Connecticut. The way it was set up long before any of us sat behind this table, and probably long before any of us actually resided in the town of North Branford, with very few exceptions, is a system whereby local education was governed by a local authority and funded largely by that local authority. We do get some assistance from the state of Connecticut, as does every municipality. Unfortunately, we get a disproportionately lower assistance payment from the state of Connecticut than the large inner cities like Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford. But that system of funding education is dictated to us. as are many of the programs that have to be funded within the educational system. The result being that we're being told what to do. We're being placed in a system that is not something we created, but we're struggling to deal with. And the only thing we control is how we raise the money to pay for it. Now, when you look at the educational process in this town and the educational contract with teachers, that's something that even the Board of Ed has limited control over. There are many years when that contract is agreed to. The most recent contract was the result of, please don't hold me to it, it was either mediation or arbitration. I'm not positive which, I can't recall. But effectively what happened is there was a disagreement. And ultimately, a third party from outside the town made a decision which was foisted upon the town, and we were told, fund it. The decision of an arbitrator or a mediator is, in many instances, binding, because teachers are not allowed to strike or leave their positions. Those contracts, once put in place, always carry with them some increase in the compensation to the teacher population. That is largely funded by your tax dollars. So while I don't want to sit here and tell you we're not struggling to contain those tax costs to you and to the rest of the citizens of the town, what you do need to understand is our ability to wrestle with those problems. We start at an extreme disadvantage. And while we do struggle, and while we do refuse to give increases in specific areas or for specific programs, or refuse to fund programs entirely, there are many programs which we are told, we are dictated by the state of Connecticut, we must fund. And as a result, we're in the taxation quagmire we're all struggling with right now. And I'm sure that's not quite the answer you wanted, but unfortunately, it's a dose of reality that we have to deal with.
Is there any way you Democrats up there can talk to your friends in Hartford to change their philosophy of spending and ordering more spending upon the people of Connecticut? And I think that's where you nailed it. The problem is coming down from Hartford, and they don't seem to care.
I wouldn't characterize it as a lack of concern, but in terms of our ability to communicate, to the extent we have a legislator and a senator, those criticisms are regularly voiced to them. To the extent they're taking the message of you, the voter, to Hartford with them, they're well aware of our position on taxes and state mandates. Is that going to change with the state budget running at a deficit? I don't see that happening in the near future. I do hope in the long term the state has the ability to right the ship and contain some of those costs. And by the way, one statement you made actually is not correct. Per capita, New Jersey has more debt and higher taxes than the state of Connecticut.
I moved out of New Jersey. I know what they're talking about.
All right. Next question, please. Thank you, Joe. Another question? Lynn?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lynn Reardon. I live at 33 Durrell Farm Road. First of all, I do thank each and every one of you for being here. It's basically a hot seat, if you ask me. So, and I think that you've all brought up a lot of fantastic topics, some of which I'm very interested and concerned in as well. Obviously, taxes, everyone is concerned about taxes, and small business, nurturing small business, concerned about bringing new business into the town. That all is associated with taxes as well. And old buildings. I mean, you can't just let things fall down around you. And you've said there's no money, and I get that. So I guess my question to you is, what is it that we are going to do? How is it we are going to get more money so that we can care for the town? What is it we are going to do to bring in business, care for the business that is here? Several of you talked about a defunct Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure if it's defunct, if it's still in operation. I'm not really sure what it is. So I guess the last person I thought was connected to the chamber would be Joanne. So is it still a viable chamber? Is it still in existence?
Yes.
Because last I looked online, the nothing was paid or nothing was filed with the state since 2010. Being the president of 2 nonprofits, I know that there are rules that you need to adhere to and things that you need to do. So I guess the question is, what is it that the chamber, existing chamber here, does for any business in this town at this time?
I can't answer you tonight. I don't know what you were talking about with the state. I'll have to find out about that. I don't know. But we're still in existence.
Thank you.
It's been slower than usual because people are having hard times to pay their bills, especially the chamber. They're not paying them.
Okay. Any other questions? Sir?
My name is Bob Constantinople. I've lived in town 66 years. I watched the deterioration of the buildings. The center school was someplace that I went to school, and from what I understand, it is not safe anymore to even go in the building. We do not have the funding to maintain the buildings we have now. What I don't understand is how we can afford to go out and bond $350,000 for a training facility that we don't need. And could somebody who voted for that please answer that question for me?
Okay, we'll let it's the Democrats up first this time. Anybody?
Yeah, what do you want, Joe?
Joe, you're up again. You're the senior member of the Democrat Party, so.
I'm not sure that the fire facility, the fire training facility, was actually bonded. I believe it was part of the budget that was approved this past budget season. It is an expenditure which I questioned. I spoke to both the fire chief and to Anthony Esposito, who's the deputy chief. And it was a concern I had as to whether or not we needed that facility and what it cost for us to send our prospective fire people outside of the town of North Branford to be trained to become volunteer firefighters in town. I think ultimately what the decisive factor was in approving that facility is the savings that we all realize from our fire department. Not only in terms of the real life-saving efforts they make if any one of us has an emergency and our home is either threatened or there's a medical emergency that they respond to, but in terms of the dollar savings, and I couldn't give you a precise figure, but if you look at any municipalities around us, North Haven, Branford, you're looking at municipalities that have paid firemen. We do not have that. We do provide a very modest pension for these people, and basically their services are volunteer. So they put their life on the line. They do not cost us any appreciable amount of money, and they have asked that we keep their facilities and their equipment up to date, current, and that they meet federal guidelines. Personally, I don't find that to be an extravagance. I think it's a necessity. And I think we're very fortunate to have these people that do respond when we need them and we dial that 911 and are in the middle of an emergency.
I'm not saying anything about the fire department. What I'm saying is, I believe the money was bonded, and that means we borrowed money that we got to pay back. Where do we get this extra money when we could very easily go use other facilities? And from what I understand, well, first of all, where does it cost to maintain this building from many years ago? We've seen what's happened to other buildings in our town where we can't maintain them. I understand it was a food pantry that we couldn't even go into a building that they sunk a lot of money into it because it wasn't maintained. That's what I'm asking you. We seem to be wasting a lot of money in this town. We've had two charrettes. One now, I don't know the number, you probably know, I heard it was around 10,000 for it, to have Yale come in and run this thing. We had one 10 years ago, all to sell the property that now, what the charrette said, now from what I understand, the person who's going to take over this or who wants to build on this property doesn't want to do what the charrette said. So why did we spend that money? It seems like we spend a lot of money in this town, this just gets flushed down the toilet. I've heard somebody in this town council talk about dog and pony shows. Some of the things you people do are dog and pony shows, that is true.
Okay, I don't think that was part of the question, but if you got the question, Joe, you
Question
want...
is rather far-reaching, and it may be difficult to answer it in its entirety. And I think I'd probably be better to defer to those people that were more intimately involved in the charrette process to address that part of the question. There's absolutely no question that once this facility, this fire training facility is built, it's going to have to be maintained. And unfortunately, the cost of maintenance is going to be a tax burden, an additional portion of the tax burden on the citizens of this town. That's the reality of the situation. From my personal perspective, and I think from the town council's perspective, we have to look at what it is any department brings to the town for the benefit of the citizenry and make a determination what we're prepared to invest in that particular department to keep them operational. The decision was made to provide this facility, I think, was responsive to what that group of individuals provides to the town of North Branford. As to the charrette, as to the condition of the community building that Lynn Reardon was proposing to use for her food pantry, I think you're mistaken. The facility could have been adopted for use by her food pantry. The decision was made that it was an inappropriate expenditure to expend town funds for essentially a charitable undertaking. And as a result of that, the approval was denied. So it was not the condition of the building, but rather the use it was going to be put to and whether or not that was an appropriate expenditure of town funds.
Why wasn't it denied in the beginning, before she spent a lot of money?
Okay, that would be a different question. Let's get to the first one, and then we'll see if anybody else has questions.
I don't want to hog the floor. I think somebody else.
There's a Republican, wait a minute.
Yeah.
A Republican to answer the question about the fire.
Fire train?
Yeah.
It's a dual facility too.
Right. So I voted in favor of the fire training facility, and I look at every dollar like it's my own. And, and I come from a long family of tight Yankees. So as good as the fire department is at saving our lives when we need them, they're even better at coming here and presenting something that they need. So I personally looked at it that they are volunteers, just like everybody that sits up here and every coach in town and everything else. So they're volunteers, they have to go work somewhere during the day, they come home, and they're required by law to have so many hours of training. So we can build this for them, or else they all have to leave town and go down to New Haven or somewhere and train. So absolutely, did we absolutely need it? No. Did it make sense to me to build it for them? Yes, and I believe you're right, the money was bonded in the money that we had to bond for fixing the roads, fixing some buildings, and we piggybacked that into it. The only good thing about bonding is it's cheap interest rate, but again, we get our debt service down, maybe we can afford some things like that. But I don't know what the second question was.
Thank you. I think we get next question.
I just have
Can
a
you come up
question
to the
of-
microphone, please,
I
and
think I can
state?
be heard. A question
Yeah,
of
but you can't be heard on the
clarification.
TV, sir. This
Okay.
is being taped, and they won't be able to hear you on the,
Okay,
they'll see you standing there, and they'll see your lips moving.
thank you. My question is one of clarification. If we did not build this facility, it would still cost us money to train the firemen. And the real difference is how much, is there a difference at all? Is it costing us more, or is it costing us the same, or a little less? I don't see it's a big deal either way, but I'm just asking you guys for that clarification.
Well, it's
Thank you.
It's twofold. I mean, our firemen have to leave town to go and train, so they're out of town while they're training. So should there be an event in our town, we have either Branford, Guilford, or another town covering our town at that time. I've been to some of their training drills where they brought in equipment for them to train in, which is a 45-foot trailer, which has failed. One or two of our firemen were injured in that trailer training. This facility that's being built is a dual facility where our SWAT and police department is able to use. And being a prefab building, all steel, there's not a whole lot of maintenance that needs to be done. And once this building is up, surrounding towns will be able to use it, and we can actually benefit dollar-wise when these other towns do use our training facility. We are part of a regional police and fire, and I know Mike is very familiar with this, being deputy chief for over 34 years. We're part of, 169 towns, but we are part of a regional force where we get called into Branford, Durham, Guilford, and other surrounding areas. So North Branford and other towns will benefit greatly.
Thank you. Next question.
Sarah Querfeld, 42 Valley Road. My question has to do with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm under the understanding it has nothing to do with the council at all.
Correct.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
All right, thank you. Thank
Has
you.
nothing to do with the town. I mean, yeah, town council.
Okay. Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay, I'd like to thank our candidates for coming out tonight, and also thank our residents. And I do want to add that I do agree with Mr. Rose in one sense. You guys that do this every year or are running this year, I don't go to a lot of meetings. I watch them on TV because I get very emotional. And for you guys to do what you guys do, I mean, whether you agree with all of your policies or you disagree, it's something that our town should be proud of, and we should applaud you for the work that you do or the work that you want to do if you're new people on this board. So,
thank you.
I thank you all for coming, and get out and vote on November 3rd.